welcome to the first Montclair News Lab of the year. I'm Bernice Stagwa, and we have a lot to cover today, so here's what's coming up. A special report, food and hunger during a pandemic.
That is a human right. Everyone should be able to have access to food. That's it.
Queen Latifah, on Montclair State's campus? We'll show you the commotion.
Montclair is really transforming into this movie studio, and we're going to look back and say, hey, that's my school.
Now, to our series of special reports on food in the pandemic. In a minute, Louise Ellers will take us to a West Orange soup kitchen that's serving many more meals since the pandemic started. But first, Gabby Taylor on the physical and psychological cost of food insecurity.
While COVID spread across the state this past year, so did hunger. This story is about 3 New Jersey citizens who stepped up to help those in need. Christine Peruta is the head coordinator of Local Share, a program of the Food Shed Alliance based in Hope, New Jersey. Peruta acknowledges that their work would not be possible without those who grow our food.
During the beginning of the pandemic, our farmers really stepped up. Some did home delivery for the elderly or for people who tested positive. They did all kinds of unique approaches.
Awareness of food insecurity has increased since the beginning of the pandemic, but Peruta warns not to forget the importance of nutrition.
It affects all the social determinants of health and well-being for people from, prenatally up through old age.
More than 35 million people in the United States suffered from food insecurity in 2019, including 17 million children. Due to the coronavirus pandemic, it is now estimated that number is over 50 million. In Paterson, New Jersey, Deacon Willie Davis is the head farmer of Greenacre Community Garden, where he hosts free bi-weekly farm stands.
We help them so they can eat properly every day and have the life that they should have, to be able to move accordingly. Because food is scarce, especially this fresh vegetable and stuff. It's life. It's life.
Deacon Davis notes that the effect is much larger than just filling people's bellies.
The impact here is great because it moved from one atmosphere to another atmosphere. And the trouble that used to be here, not here no more. The shooting, not here anymore. The drugs, not here anymore.
In Washington, New Jersey, Reverend Marisa Vandervalk runs an expanded free meal program at Greenstone United Methodist Church. Vandervalk notes that the issue of food insecurity won't stop with the end of the pandemic.
And my hope is that during this time that people see that food insecurity has always been here and that we all have a part to play to make sure that people have something to eat, because that is a human right. Everyone should be able to have access to food. That's it.
3 New Jersey citizens stepping up to feed those in need. From Montclair News Lab, I'm Gabby Taylor.
Operating within the walls of Holy Trinity Episcopal Church in West Orange is Christine's Soup Kitchen. The kitchen's volunteers have given out food almost every Saturday for the past 19 years. People come from all over Essex County to pick up lunch, only now, everything is outside because of the pandemic. David Sadow has been coming to the soup kitchen for several years. For him, the soup kitchen provides more than just meals.
I think that, it's a good sense of community and fellowship. I come to the soup kitchen, not so much that I'm starving, definitely not if you look at me, but especially in this pandemic, it's so important to have some outing somewhere. I've gotten to know other people here. You kind of know a little bit about their stories.
Due to the pandemic, the soup kitchen is feeding more people than ever, from 75 meals to now nearly 200 a week.
I think there are people that are more hungry perhaps in the pandemic. I think the meals, sandwiches, or hot food, they're both good in their own way.
Anthony D'Agostino is the owner of Patsy's Restaurant in West Orange. The restaurant is all in when it comes to donating food.
During the height of the pandemic, the executive team and myself, we sat down and we discussed different ways that we could help the community. So we got in touch with Christine's Soup Kitchen, asked what the needs were, and they were averaging about 120 to 150 lunches every Saturday. So we immediately pledged indefinitely 150 soups and pastas every week.
Giving to the community has always been a big part of Anthony's life.
So I get a lot of our inspiration from my mother and how Sundays at my house was a huge event. We had this open door policy, and just everybody would just come to my house for dinner. So my mother was very much into giving and helping people, and so we try to kind of perpetuate that kindness and that generosity.
Anthony isn't the only person struck with the spirit of giving during the pandemic. When given the opportunity, David has been bringing meals from the soup kitchen back to his apartment building for residents.
Everybody appreciates it, they really do. When there's leftovers, I bring whatever I can back. It's always good to catch up with everybody, and they always appreciate the meal.
Anything that's going to the soup kitchen is made fresh that day. Every Saturday morning, the kitchen is just a buzz of the great feeling that everybody's getting producing these meals. We plan on giving meals forever.
In good times and bad, Christine's Soup Kitchen serves food and hope. For Montclair News Lab, I'm Louise Ellers.
Another food issue right on campus has to do with those students in quarantine and how they get their meals. As I found out, it can be a confusing maze. Despite the added precautions the university has taken, there are still students who come in contact with COVID-positive individuals. And for those students, it means quarantine and inconvenience. That's what happened to Ashley Bristow and 8 other members of the Recreation Center staff.
One of my coworkers, she came into contact with a COVID-positive family member, and she herself didn't know if she had COVID, but she did the right thing. She contacted the University Health Center and had given them a list of names that she was working with, I guess. It was a bit of a bummer because I did want to have a bit of more freedom. Like, I couldn't go to some of my classes. I couldn't make any more money, even though I'm saving up for an apartment.
During Bristow's 2 weeks in quarantine, she was directed by the university to pick up her food from the downstairs lobby of her dorm hall.
So in the email, they had told us that we were able to order through the Grubhub app and then go downstairs to pick it up. They do also have a delivery section where they come up to your room. But I just saw that it was a bit of an inconvenience for me in particular because the time blocks for lunch, dinner, and breakfast it didn't work with my schedule. So a lot of the times it was closed. So I did have to leave my room to go pick up food from the app.
So we wondered, if students were in quarantine, why were they leaving their rooms to pick up their food? I reached out to Jim Robinson, director of dining on campus. In an email, he stated that they deliver the food to the front desk, but he never specified what happens next. The Montclair State website, however, did. The university clearly instructs students in quarantine to pick up their meals at the front desk. Dr. Stephanie Silvera is an epidemiology expert and public health professor at MSU.
I don't know why the policy is in place that they need to leave their room to go downstairs where they may come in contact with other individuals. That certainly might increase the risk to others. We want to keep people who are in quarantine as isolated from potential susceptible contacts as possible.
Every time she made the trip up to the front desk to pick up her food, Bristow thought the same thing.
I just felt that it was a bit contradictory, for them to tell us that we have to be in quarantine, but then we could leave our rooms to pick up food, because then it made me ponder at what level can we go outside and can't we go outside? What's stopping me from just leaving campus or going to pick up food from another place?
I reached out to Robinson again to see if there were any changes due to this gap in the policy. He reiterated that there were no new changes in the COVID meal process, and students should continue using the Grubhub app to order their meals. Dr. Silvera advises to stay 6 feet away and double mask to reduce the risk as much as possible. All this pandemic-related stress can take a toll. That's why we're introducing our new mental health checkpoint segment.
Remember to drink water. The average person needs to drink 8 8-ounce glasses of water a day. A hydrated mind is a happy mind.
If you were on campus recently, you couldn't help but notice all the excitement around a Hollywood-style shoot. Queen Latifah was shooting scenes for her new CBS TV show, The Equalizer. This isn't the first major TV shoot on our campus. Last month, another CBS drama with Patrick Dempsey made Montclair State its home. Student Sarah DePippa was hired for the production as a COVID enforcer. News Lab anchor Ryan Breda spoke with her.
Sarah DePippa was not an ordinary production assistant on the set of Ways and Means. As a COVID-19 enforcer, she made sure the actors and actresses maintained social distancing and followed other COVID guidelines.
So With the COVID-19 pandemic, a lot of sets have a lot of protocols that they have to follow. A lot of the cast and crew were being tested every single week to make sure that everyone was safe. Basically, my role was to hold, no joke, a long wooden stick with tennis balls at the end of it. I had to be authoritative and I had to tell people to be 6 feet apart. And I also was in charge of handing out PPE to the cast and crew.
Not only did Latifah have to watch for members of the crew breaking COVID guidelines, but she also had to keep Patrick Dempsey, who was a film and TV star from New Jersey, safe from a screaming crowd of fans.
A lot of the times I would talk to the background actors, and I was actually within a certain distance of Patrick Dempsey. There was a bunch of fans outside. It was a hectic situation because I had to push probably hundreds of screaming girls back so this way the set medic could come and help this one girl that passed out because she was so excited that Patrick Dempsey was on set.
Being a part of the set, Latifah said that shooting under COVID made things difficult, but it has also opened the door for new production opportunities.
COVID made things tricky, especially seeing the behind the scenes. I knew there was a lot of technical difficulties, so it's just cool to see how these universities are being turned into sets and how Montclair is really transforming into this movie studio, and we're going to look back and say, hey, that's my school in the shot. So I think that's pretty interesting.
With 2 major productions already shot at Montclair this semester, the campus and students are excited to see what's in store for the coming months. For Montclair News Lab, this is Ryan Breda.
Injuries in sports can be season-ending. Julia Sutton, a guard on the Montclair State women's basketball team, found this out the hard way. This is a piece produced by our colleagues at the Red Hawk Sports Network.
We hear about athletes getting hurt and having season-ending injuries all the time. You never think it can happen to you until it does.
I'm Julia Sutton, a guard on Montclair State's basketball team. I played basketball since the age of 8, but I've never experienced a serious injury. I've had no idea the impact physically and mentally it can have on you. Last year, as a sophomore, I earned a starting role on the team.
Working inside, puts it up and in, Julia Sutton.
But in the second game against Springfield in the tip-off tournament, I was running sideways when a player hit my knee. The second I heard the pop, I knew exactly what just happened. There's no way to explain the popping sound you hear, but it's something you can't get out of your head. Everyone kept saying it would be okay, but I looked over to my coach and said, I just tore my ACL. I had taken basketball for granted before my injury. It's hard to appreciate something that came so easy and so natural. When something is taken away from you, something that you didn't realize how much you depended on and relied on, it can be hard. Overcoming the battle of not being able to play and help my team was a struggle that took a while to overcome. But once I changed my perspective, I learned to love basketball in a different way. And on the sidelines, I observed my teammates and how they saw the game. I watched more basketball than ever, and I became obsessed with learning. I told myself I wanted to get back and be stronger and better than ever. I went back to the basics, learning to walk, learning to straighten my knee, learning how to run, and teaching myself how to squat again. It was a long and dreadful process that will forever make me love the sport. Being able to play the sport that was taken away from me for so long is a feeling I can't describe. I find myself smiling during practice just thinking about how badly I wanted to be in the spot that I am right now, just months ago. My biggest takeaway from my injury is learning how to love the game again, and not taking it for granted. I will forever be grateful to have basketball. Basketball has taught me so much in life, like leadership, accountability, and responsibility, and just not to take anything for granted. See you this spring.
That's all for this episode of Montclair News Lab. Thank you so much for spending your time with us, and I hope you can join us next week for a brand new episode. Until then, I'm Bernice Dagua. Stay safe out there.